A very good morning to you watching the Channel M Breakfast Show, and it's Wednesday, the 8th of April. We're cruising towards the bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, I'm Byron Evans.
And I'm Nikki Dean.
And we are both audio-visual communication technicians.
What's that?
Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this morning we were flicking through the papers. We stumbled across a story looking at the ridiculous, almighty, elongated, extravagant job titles for simple things like a binman, which is...
a refuse technician. Used to be a collector, but apparently they're referred to in some parts now as a technician.
Got some crackers for you. I love this one. Here, what is a five-a-day collection operative?
Am I allowed to say?
Yeah.
Fruit picker.
Yes, a petroleum transfer engineer.
Somebody who works at a petrol station.
Yeah, pretty much.
My favourite one, though, I think has got to be this one, a transparency enhancement facilitator, known to you and I as a window cleaner. What's wrong with a window cleaner? I like it. Friendly.
Indeed.
A whistling window cleaner.
So we've been posing these questions to you, if you could decipher what these extravagant job titles were actually, what they actually were. And we've had some interesting people come back and... but please don't hesitate to contact The Breakfast Show if you want to join in the conversation this morning. Details are on your screen, how you can contact us. In a few minutes, all the latest sports headlines with Mike Bradley, plus an insider's guide to Manchester's music history at 8:45 with John Robb. But first, let's get the latest news headlines with James.
Good morning. Here are Wednesday's top stories so far. A hospital consultant says allegations he sexually abused patients at a clinic in Manchester have wrecked his career. Dr Narendra Sharma has now been cleared of doing anything wrong after it was claimed he'd used the hands of sedated women being given abortions to perform obscene acts on himself. The 51-year-old says the stress of it has given his elderly mother a heart attack. Investigations will start later into a major fire at a block of flats in Clayton. People living in the waterfront complex at Sports City have had to spend the night away from their homes after a blaze spread from a first-floor apartment into the voids between flats throughout 4 floors of the building. At its height, 15 crews were involved. The sister of one of the men shot dead by members of Manchester's notorious Gooch gang has spoken out for the first time about his killers. Keisha Greenidge says the ringleader Colin Joyce has no value for life. 11 members of his gang are starting sentences totalling 200 years for their part in the death of Tyrone Gilbert and another man, Yukal Chin. Keisha tells us her pain's been deepened by the lack of respect her murderers showed in court.
He was arrogant. He thought he was genius in what he was doing, sacking his legal team, representing himself, creating this whole performance. He even commented after the verdict, after he was sentenced, that it was a whole circus and he was innocent, just to get the last word in. He's controlling and he is where he needs to be. They're sick, deluded. They've stood up in court and lied, saying how they've been friends and they had nothing against anyone. They've ridiculed the court system, they've abused the witnesses and us as families by shouting things out. They've just got no remorse.
A series of billboard posters are to go up around Manchester, thanking the community for their help in securing this week's convictions. This one has already gone up on the A6. Another 13 are due to be pasted up in the next couple of weeks, using the faces of the 11 gangsters to warn other gang members that they'll end up in jail. Doctors say a 12-month-old baby boy from Whitefields making good progress after a double transplant operation his parents were worried might never happen. Ethan Collins' mum and dad were told in November he might not make it to Christmas after he was born with most of his intestines outside his body. He also needs a new liver. Medics are now looking after him in intensive care as his family campaign to get more people to sign up as organ donors. A former teenage tearaway who was obsessed with joyriding cars is now putting his passion for driving fast to good use on the country's racing tracks. Dean Pratt was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. That's why he was getting into so much trouble, but now he's hoping his talents can take him to the top, as Beverly Walkton now reports.
Racing is a dangerous sport, but better here than on the roads, which is where 17-year-old Dean Pratt was honing his skills out-manoeuvring the police and smashing up cars, including his parents' car. For anybody who lives around here, this will be a familiar sight. In fact, Dean spends around 10 hours a week doing up his Ford Fiesta following races around the whole country. But it's his love of racing cars that really has kept him out of trouble for the last 12 months. was life like before Bangor racing?
I just wanted to drive, so I used to take my mum's car. Just go to Morrison's car park and drive about.
Dean's behaviour was so antisocial, his parents took him to see a psychologist. It was then he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome.
Come on, we looked on the internet, and then we started seeing all these obsessions with train times, bus times, A to Z's, his general behaviour, how he reacts to people, how he has no compassion for the people, just stuff like that. And you're thinking, you know, all these are there. We know them instantly, so why didn't somebody else pick up on these, you know, somebody in the educational system?
Some would look to you and say, oh, it's the parents' fault.
We had all that anyway. We was told that when he was 8 or 9 years old.
I mean, they offered us parenting skills sessions and stuff like that. You know, we have 2 other daughters who are fantastic in school, you know, they're the top of the class. And Dean was like the black sheep, and it's like, well, why is the other 2 being fine? And then we've got Dean, and as soon as we got that diagnosis, everything changed.
Dean began Bangor racing in 2008.
He's just taken off. It's unbelievable how well he's doing. You know, to come second twice in his first outing and then to win at the final. Just so proud of him.
Dean's behaviour was tearing the family apart, but now they understand his condition. They say his Bangor racing has brought them all back together. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
That's all from me for this morning. Join me at 12 noon for the lunchtime news, and Andy Crane will have more from 5 o'clock tonight as well. Now, though, here's Byron and Mike with the sport.
Well, shortly we're going to hear from Michael Carrick and Johnny Evans after the 2-2 draw in the Champions League between Manchester United and FC Porto. But before we do, we've got some newspaper gossip to start with. And sticking with the Champions League, are United still favourites?
They aren't. This isn't even in the newspaper. It's just come off the wires about 5 minutes ago, so we have to bear with us while we digest it. United are no longer favourites to win the Champions League following their 2-2 draw yesterday. They were 2-1 top prize favourites. They've now drifted out as far as 4-1 with every single high street bookie. So we may not like the bookies, but they're never wrong. Well, they're rarely wrong, shall we say, and they've gone from 2-1 to 4-1. Barcelona are the new market leaders. You can't get any better than 12-5. Arsenal are into 11-2 third-priced favourites. If you want an outside bet, Porto and Villarreal 14 and 40-1 respectively to go all the way. And United have been eased from 7-1 to 11-2 to pick up all 4 major trophies. So the bookies this morning not on the side of United.
Pressure is building.
Pressure is building, you're absolutely right.
OK, so who's doing one from Wigan?
Miyazaki, the want-away striker, we have to call him that because he never returns from international duty. Steve Bruce is tearing what little hair out of his head that he's got left, and he looks like he's going to be on his way to Spurs, who are prepared to offload Darren Bent in order to finance the deal. So I know we come up with a couple of bizarre rumours every single day, but this is one I think could go through. And another one that I've heard this morning is Sven-Göran Eriksson. He's been talking to Portsmouth. I don't think he's going to come back to the Premier League for Portsmouth because they may not be in the Premier League next year, but he could be coming back as manager of Sunderland.
Do we want him? I mean, do we want him back in the country? He's got a bin from Mexico.
He's got a bin from Mexico, but he wasn't really given a fair chance over there. That was his third 7-figure payoff in the past 4 years, so he doesn't need the money, but he's still passionate, and he'd be a sad loss to the game. Let's bring him back to the Premiership.
He is quite the character, isn't
absolutely.
He? All right, speaking of character, Manchester United had a lot of it last night, but they couldn't pull off a win.
They couldn't pull off a win, and only 2 players had the character to come by and talk to us afterwards. Michael Carrick was one of them.
It's not the end of the world. You know, it's a tough competition, so you've got to overcome problems if you want to win it. You know, we've done it before and we can do it again, so if we play well enough next week, I'm sure we can win.
It's a reminder of just how strong this competition is as well.
Yeah, we were well aware of that before the game. We knew they were a good side, and they've got some very good players, and as you'd expect at this stage of this competition, you know, we're going to have to be at our best next week.
The lads feeling a bit tired after so many games in quick succession. Obviously the Villa game on Sunday as well.
Yeah, but it's not an excuse, you know. It was a big game tonight and we knew what we had to do, and just didn't quite pull it off.
Well, speaking of characters in the beautiful game, Dave Atkinson, the chairman of Glossop North End FC, is most especially one of them.
Absolutely, he is. He's one of my favourite characters in the semi-professional game. I met him down at Wembley yesterday at the foot of the Bobby Moore statue. He was at Wembley as a guest of the FA to talk over his side's appearance at the FA Vars against Whitby Town. That was on May the 10th, Sunday, May the 10th. The day started off with some bad news for the Hillmen, though.
We've lost the toss for the kit. So we're going to play in all white. Whitley Bay will play in their blue kit. So it's, you know, the new kit will be white for the final. The changing rooms, we're on the west side, so we'll be on the west side, and obviously our fans will be on the west side of the centre line. These tickets are approximately £20 across the board, and then there's some sort of executive packages with food and such like, you know, a couple of complimentary drinks. So all those just need to be sorted out. But a North East team and a North West team, it's a little bit like a mini Man United perhaps, or Man City against a little Newcastle, or, you know, Middlesbrough perhaps, I don't know. So we're hoping that the North West turns out, and obviously Whitley Bay hoping that the North East turns out. And speaking to the people in Wembley today, you know, they like it when the teams come from the North West and the North East, because, as they said, you know, other teams take it a little bit blasé, you know.
OK, let's finish off this morning's sport with a bit of Super League.
The Carnegie Challenge Cup fifth-round draw was made yesterday. Quick look at our teams involved. Batley will entertain Salford. That's got to be Salford's best chance of getting through to the sixth round. Our other teams, Oldham, travel to Gateshead. Rochdale, who knocked out Swinton in the fourth round, have got a plum tie away at Super League giants Huddersfield. St Helens entertain Catalan Dragons, and Wigan against Wakefield. My personal tie of the round. All the games to be played on the weekend of May the 9th. My favourites to go through: Salford, Oldham and Wigan.
Come on, Salford.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. More sport tomorrow's breakfast show with Mr Bradley. Time now for a break, coming after which we'll have Manchester musician, broadcaster and all-round rock and roller John Robb with a definitive guide to Manchester's musical past.